Hey, we're on. So don't mind me as I still continue to let people in and I take a brief minute. Today we are talking about arthritis and weight loss with the power of nutrition. So we've got a few different topics we're going to jump into today. And we should probably start with this disclaimer here. So today's webinar is not to serve as a substitute or replace individual treatment advice of your doctor if you're under the care of a dietitian. Just know today's presentation is about sharing general information and advice. We've gone to the effort to make sure that all the information we present today is accurate and reliable. If you do have questions regarding individual treatment, make sure you take those forward to a doctor or a dietitian. Okay, so we will be looking at the relationship between weight and arthritis, and we'll start there and talking about what that looks like and why can it be a little bit of a problem with chronic conditions. We'll talk about the benefits of maintaining and achieving a healthy weight that will dip into weight loss. And we do have some practical advice throughout the presentation to help you adopt healthier eating habits, help you learn how to eat well and perhaps learn about the benefits of that. And then we'll also talk a little bit about reading a nutrition panel, looking at the health star rating. We'll also talk a little bit about goal setting. So we've got a few different topics that we're going to take a deep dive into today. Why don't we start with a question? And I'm going to let you share your answers in the chat box. Does being overweight cause arthritis? And does being overweight make arthritis worse? I'll give you a couple of seconds to write what you think in the chat box. What comes through? So to say simply, yes and no. So being overweight does not directly cause arthritis, but in saying that it does carry a higher risk. And so how it works is that excess weight that's being carried increases the load placed on the joints, especially those load-bearing joints like the knees, the hips, and the lower back. And so this is known to actually hasten the breakdown and deterioration of the cartilage in those joints. As osteoarthritis is actually caused by the wear and tear of the cartilage over time, when we have a heavier force putting pressure on those load-bearing joints, we can actually accelerate that process in wearing away the cartilage. So it does lead to a higher risk of worsening the arthritis. If there is also a family history of autoimmune diseases, being overweight or obese is one of those factors. It could be lifestyle related or a medical condition that could actually lead to switching on those genes that are inherited and lead to a higher risk of developing something called rheumatoid arthritis or any of those inflammatory types of arthritis. And so the severity of the symptoms like pain, stiffness, swelling, reduced joint function, and the disease activity, all of these things could be exacerbated not just by the stress that's added onto the joint, but the pro-inflammatory substances that are actually produced by excess fat tissue. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in the next coming slide. But excess fat tissue is highly inflammatory, and this is why sometimes we see a lot of improvements made when we induce a little bit of weight loss. It doesn't have to be a lot, and I'll talk a bit more about that soon. But let's jump to thinking about joint surgery. if you are someone who is considering going for a surgery, or if it's already in the pipeline and you've been told by the doctor it could be beneficial to lose a little bit of weight, it's mainly because it could help those surgical outcomes. Not only does it make it trickier to in terms of healing, but there could be a high risk of surgical complications. And so the more weight that's carried, the harder it can be to rehabilitate. And so you have other things like increased risk of infection. It could be due to weakened immunity. It could be due to high risk of blood clots. There could also be a high risk of dislocation due to a soft tissue impingement or tissue levering the joint out of place. And so sometimes the surgeon or the doctor will go through that with you. And that's primarily why they might encourage you to go down that path and talk about weight loss with you before going into the surgery. So when we talk about the mechanics of the joint, weight is a really important topic. It's actually estimated that a force of 3 to 6 times one's body weight is exerted across the knee while walking. And then once you add an incline to that, the force is increased even more. And so even just by losing a little bit, up to 5% of total body weight can really be beneficial for reducing that total force that's placed onto a joint. And so when as little as 5% of total body weight has been lost, there has been significant improvements observed in joint pain and function. So again, it doesn't have to be a huge amount. 5% has shown to be really beneficial. So just a little bit earlier, I said carrying excess fatty tissue is highly inflammatory. And so this kind of links into some of the other biological and physiological ways excess weight can make symptoms worse. So if you think about fat tissue, it's actually an active tissue which produces pro-inflammatory chemicals, hormones. Some you might have even heard of. And so that includes C-reactive protein, interleukin-6. These are all inflammatory markers which are commonly used to measure how much inflammation is in the body. In the research, high amounts of these markers have actually been detected in overweight and obese individuals, and it could be responsible for worsening the severity of the arthritis. There are also high levels of cholesterol, high levels of inflammatory markers, unstable blood glucose levels. These are all the detriments that are present in more overweight and obese individuals, but they are all similar in that they hasten the oxidative stress on the cartilage and can actually worsen that breakdown. So when there is chronic inflammation in the body, it can wreak havoc on many different systems in our body, can cause a lot of stress in different cells and tissues in the body. And this is why there is a strong correlation between inflammation and chronic disease. It's actually one of the precursors in a lot of different diseases that they're now starting to research and target to find beneficial treatments. And I would say as well, if you're someone who needs a total knee replacement or a hip replacement surgery, your weight and it's significantly higher than it should be, the doctor should really, they may be advising you to lose weight before the procedure, and this is just due to those higher post-operative risks that I mentioned before. So just a little summary note, carrying excess weight can place more load on the joint and therefore contribute to the severity of arthritis. Overweight or obese pre-surgery patients who need pain alleviation and they're going through it to actually improve their pain, improve their function, they may need to work with not just a surgeon, but other physicians who specialize in weight loss to optimize those surgical outcomes. So it could be the fact that you have a dietitian or an exercise physiologist and a physio who are involved in this program leading up to the surgery. So healthy weight loss, while it's not always easy, it has a lot of health benefits, especially in arthritis. By reducing weight, not only can we take that pressure off the joints, it can help reduce the stress in the joints and lead to a slower progression of arthritis-related changes and further damage. And so the positive effects of weight loss for pain management can also be related to the enhanced effectiveness of pain medication. With reduced pain, it could also make it more possible for you to get back into your hobbies, get back into your exercise, and help with those rehabilitation exercises, which can over time lead to better joint function and improved quality of life. There's also a lot of other benefits, like reduced risk of comorbidities like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, stroke, even some cancers. And so when weight loss is induced socially, you can have a lot more positive health outcomes. Let's go back to the slide here. So we just mentioned why weight loss can be beneficial, and I had a little bit earlier, people asking, well, how do we do it and how can we get there? Now, what you're seeing here are the 4 pillars of weight loss, to put it simply. The first hallmark feature of a weight loss program is always going to be calorie or kilojoule control. If you have already spoken with a dietitian or a nutritionist before, you may have been told to watch those calories coming in the diet, or you may have been told to watch your portion sizes. Why this is because of how much energy we get from our food. It really should be balanced with how much energy we are using for our physical activities, exercise, and this can really determine how fast you lose weight and how steadily and you can lose weight and how long it can last for. The second pillar of a weight loss program is always going to encourage eating more whole foods. You have 5 core food groups that we really should be eating from every single day. When our diets are predominantly whole foods, not only does this help with weight loss, but these foods are packed with many different nutrients that can actually help with fighting inflammation, protecting our joints, protecting our bones, and protect us against diet-related diseases. So we'll talk a little bit about that soon. Then we also have reducing junk food and moving more. So before we jump into those, why don't we start and go back to kilojoule control, since that's an imperative part of any kind of weight loss. I want to know here, who has actually been told to watch their kilojoules before? Does anyone know what a kilojoule or a calorie is?
You want to break that down?
I think you could share your answer in the chat. Measurement of energy, that's a great way to put it simply. So when we talk about kilojoule control, which is also known as calorie control, it's a concept that involves managing the amount of energy we're consuming from our foods and drinks, and it's making sure that it's balanced with how much energy we're actually using. So the kilojoule is a unit of measure that represents how much energy comes from our food. When you see low calorie on a food label, this usually means there is a low amount of energy in a food, which can be good for weight loss, given it's measured out correctly. So going back, our body needs energy for all our daily activities in life, like doing our household chores, vacuuming, doing the lawn, going for a walk, going to the gym. How much energy we need is going to be very individualized and depends on your unique physical stature. It depends on how old you are, how tall you are, and how much physical activity you are doing. When we consume more kilojoules than our body needs, usually the excess energy is actually just stored away as fat, which over time can lead to weight gain. In the table here, we've got an estimation for the amount of kilojoules you need for your age. You can see they all vary from 19 to 30 years, all the way to adults over 70 years. You can see they slightly reduce over time with age. That's just because not just our metabolism slows down, but we stop doing as much physical activity. To control kilojoule intake, it's really important that we are mindful of the foods we're eating and the portion sizes we're consuming. It doesn't mean you should be counting every single kilojoule that you consume, but it's more about making informed choices and being aware of where the energy is coming from in different foods. If you're gaining weight, it's usually because you are consuming too many kilojoules, and this can only just increase the risk of worsening your arthritis over time. Whilst there is a lot of talk about, the impact of excess kilojoules contributing to weight gain, it's also important to be aware of what can happen if you're not eating enough for your body. So if you're going to be restricting your kilojoules severely, it's over time, not only is this unsustainable for long-term weight loss success, but it can cause your body to, over time, conserve energy. So if you're eating a very restricted amount of calories and your body doesn't have that available, it actually goes into survival mode where it actually wants to hold on to every bit of energy in your body, and sometimes it has to tap into places that we don't want the energy to come from, and that can be our muscle and our tissue. So we really don't want breakdown in our muscle and tissue, because that can lead to injury, it can lead to disease as well, and it can lead to a lot of different, it can cause stress inside the body. So it's important to really get that balance correct. So when we talk about kilojoule control, you can think of it like, how are you going to get more bang for your buck? Just like when you want to get the most out of your money when you make a purchase, kilojoule control is about getting the most nutrition and the most satisfaction from the kilojoules you consume. What I actually have here are two examples of what 8,000 kilojoules look like. On the left, you can see we have a whole day's worth of meals. We've got breakfast, lunch, dinner, we've got the snacks and the juices included. So you can say that's relative, it's got a sufficient amount of energy, but probably even more nutrients. And so it's a very nutrient dense type of day of eating. It could even be less than 8,000 kilojoules. On the right-hand side, you can see that just one of these snacks or meals are going to be the equivalent of 8,000 kilojoules. So that's the equivalent to the whole day's worth of eating. And you can see that if we're eating these type of meals along with other foods in the day, or we're eating all of these type of snacks and meals continuously, we would be consuming a lot more energy than our body needs, which would be stored away as excess, leading to weight gain. Not only are these foods packed with energy, but they would be packed with the saturated fats, the sugar, the sodium, and lacking in those important nutrients that we need for good health. So if weight loss is on your agenda this year, it's always a good idea to start with looking at that kilojoule intake. And so
Looking at
like,
what?
it's very beneficial to talk to a dietitian or a weight loss specialist. It can make the process that little bit easier because they'll be able to work out how many kilojoules do you need for your body and how much do you need to support your exercise and physical activity, and work out what you need to be eating throughout the day to hit that target. It's also a good idea to actually think about how many kilojoules your favorite foods have. When you are restricting your favorite foods in any kind of diet, it's not always going to mean you're going to lose weight. It always just means you're going to put that off until a later time and then binge eat on your favorite food. So it's a good idea to actually start with learning about how many kilojoules your favorite foods have, so you can actually fit them into your diet and you can make the diet work for you. A good way to learn about this is through your mobile phone app. There is something called MyFitnessPal, Easy Diet Diary. It's a pretty nifty piece of technology where you can actually search up your favorite food and you can have a look at the nutritional contents of your different food items. And that's another good way to actually get an idea for how many kilojoules you're eating and where a lot of the kilojoules are coming from. So if you're tech savvy, I would encourage you to jump into one of those to start having a look at what you're eating. It's always a good idea to swap out those discretionary foods for low kilojoule options. What discretionary foods are is coming up, but think junk foods, processed foods, those sweets, those lollies, chocolate. It's always a good idea to start thinking about how many kilojoules do they have and how can you opt for a lower kilojoule option. The Eat for Health website is an excellent starting point, and they have a lot of different tips and tricks on there for eating healthier, controlling that kilojoule intake. It's an important part of the Australian dietary guidelines. They also have meal plans that you can have a look at and get an idea of what a healthy diet looks like. The reason why portion control plays a crucial role in weight loss and management is because it actually helps regulate calorie intake and promotes a well-balanced diet. And so we've got some tips here that you can implement to think about making that kilojoule control a little easier for you. So you can start with measuring out ingredients. This will allow you to have better control over your portion sizes. It can prevent overeating and prevent weight gain. By accurately measuring your food, you can actually be mindful of the recommended serving sizes and avoid consuming those excess calories. You should be mindful of those portion sizes as well and pay close attention to the amount of food you're consuming. Often people underestimate portion sizes and end up eating way more calories than realizing and way more calories than you need. And so by being aware of portion sizes, it can also help you avoid mindless eating and overeating and help you make more conscious choices to consume appropriate amounts of food. If you use smaller plates as well, this is a handy little trick in the household. Very effective because when you're using smaller plates, dishes, glasses, it creates an illusion that makes your brain perceive that the same amount of food is going to be more substantial. So as a result, you tend to feel more satisfied with smaller portions, which can over time help reduce that overall kilojoule intake and contribute to that weight management. Another trick is trying smaller, more frequent meals instead of consuming really large meals at once and going for that larger size dinner. Opt for smaller, more frequent meals throughout the day. This is actually very effective for portion control and weight management. When you eat smaller amounts throughout the day, not only does it help you stay more satisfied throughout the day, it can help regulate things like blood sugar levels. It can prevent extreme hunger. If you're someone who after dinner always reaches for the chocolate bar or the bag of chips, this is a little trick that you can use to help avoid that later at night. So this can also boost your metabolism and keep those energy levels peaking throughout the day. You might want to aim for 2 to 3 different coloured veggies on your plate. By having a large variety of colourful veggies and fruits in your meals, it offers a number of different benefits for weight loss. Mainly because vegetables, they're not only low in calories, but they're higher in fibre, which can help you feel full while you're eating, while consuming fewer calories. The second part is that they're packed with nutrients, vitamins, minerals, everything that's going to be essential for overall health and well-being, and can really help well round your diet. Now, go for 2 fruit and 5 veggies a day. The good rule of thumb to use in the household. That not only essential nutrients, they're rich in antioxidants, really important for protecting against chronic diseases. And we'll talk a bit about that when we get into a Mediterranean diet. Here you're seeing the Australian dietary guidelines and what our plate model looks like. So the daily recommendations for our different food groups are important for different reasons. We have 5 serves of veggies being recommended, not just because they're packed with essential vitamins, minerals, fibre, and phytonutrients that are going to be good for maintaining good health. They're going to be low in calories and high in volume, which means they can help you consume lots and lots of food while consuming less calories. So by aiming for at least 5 servings of vegetables a day, you're going to be getting an adequate amount of nutrients, supporting your digestion and promoting overall good health. With 2 serves of fruit per day, they're also going to be richer in nutrients like vitamin C, the B vitamins, fiber. They provide natural sugars, which are going to help with blood sugar control. Fruits are generally lower in calories as well, which can make them much better snacks as opposed to the more processed food, and they can help satisfy those sweet cravings as well. If you're someone who tends to go for that 3 p.m. sweeter kind of snack, definitely try to opt for fruit instead, because that will do the same thing. It's recommended to consume them in moderation, but just 2 servings of fruit per day are going to be really great for making sure you bring in all those essential vitamins. Now, dairy, 2 to 3 serves of dairy or dairy alternatives are our key recommendations. They're going to be excellent sources of not just calcium, but protein, vitamin D, and other essential nutrients. As you might already know, your calcium is going to be crucial for your bone health. And by consuming enough dairy throughout the day, this will help meet your calcium needs and protect your bones against things like osteopenia and osteoporosis. Your protein is also essential for keeping those muscles strong, keeping them stable, building that injury resilience. If you've been told to watch those cholesterol levels or watch your weight, the low fat or reduced fat options are going to be the best suited options to you. And they're going to not only make sure you're getting in those essential nutrients for your bone health, but help you avoid those excessive fats, sugars. And so 2 to 3 servings of dairy per day are going to be most beneficial. If you're also lactose intolerant or you don't quite agree with dairy, I believe if you go for a fortified plant-based milk, like the almond milk or soy milk, oat milk, there's a wide range of milks on the market these days. just make sure that it's fortified with calcium and protein. And that's one way to make sure you're substituting the dairy for an appropriate alternative item. 4 to 6 serves of whole grains. So they're also going to be packed with your vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, but mainly your fiber. So whole grains are going to be less processed compared to refined grains. And by aiming for 4 to 6 servings of whole grains or cereals per day, you can make sure that you're getting those nutrients to promote good digestive health and also support weight management. And lastly, we've got protein. So protein, I said earlier, is essential for maintaining muscle. It's also going to be really important for supporting your immune function, supporting hormone balance. And so 2 to 3 servings of protein sources such as lean meat, poultry, fish, eggs, legumes, even plant-based alternatives. We should be making that they're meeting your body's needs. And so protein is going to be that essential nutrient we need to support our muscle health, immune function, but it also keeps you satiated for longer, which means it keeps you full for longer, keeps you more satisfied. It's just important to make sure you're opting for those leaner foods. So this is an example of what a daily menu actually looks like. So you have breakfast here. You can see there's a black coffee with a whole grain piece of toast with a bit of avocado. I believe that's salmon on it as well. Next we have lunch, which is just a bit of boiled eggs and capsicum. There's some nuts on the side. Snacks with like vegetable sticks and nuts. And then you have dinner, which is predominantly a green bowl full of vegetables. You have your avocado there for your healthy fats, and you've also got a bit of salmon. So that's just an example, but this can translate into many different meals, and there's a lot of different options available on the Eat for Health website. You might have been told that you need to watch your junk food. So junk foods such as fast food, processed snacks, sugary beverages, foods also high in saturated and trans fats. You have those hot chips. These are all foods that are highly inflammatory. And so chronic inflammation is a key contributor to arthritis symptoms and can exacerbate pain, stiffness, and joint damage. By reducing the intake of these inflammatory foods, we can potentially alleviate some of that inflammation that is driving some of those symptoms. And so not only are they good for fighting inflammation, they can also help with weight management. Often these foods are so palatable and they're so tasty, usually due to the sugar, the salt, the fat, but they are higher in calories. And so usually they have a lot of unhealthy fats, they're low in nutritional value. And so because they're so tasty, they're easy to overeat. That makes us not quite aware of how many calories we're actually eating. And so this can lead to weight gain over time. If, again, going back to how weight gain affects arthritis, it can put a lot of stress on those weight-bearing joints like the knees with the hips. And so it can easily worsen arthritic symptoms and lead to more progression of the disease. So by watching the intake of these foods, and it's not to say you have to completely restrict them or eliminate them from your diet, but find ways to bring them in a more well-balanced way. So instead of having them every day, maybe picking 1 to 2 times a week that you want to indulge in type of foods. They are also quite low in essential nutrients. So these foods, if you're eating a lot of them, they don't contain many vitamins, many minerals, or antioxidants. And so they can actually have a way of impairing the immune system. They can impair joint health, contribute to inflammation, and that's why it's best to watch how they're coming into the diet. So the thing about our Western diet here in Australia is that we have so many products on the market. If you go into a grocery store and you get really overwhelmed, it's probably because there's over about 40,000 different foods in our average supermarket. So it can be really tricky to actually navigate and know which foods are the healthier options and which ones are going to be more conducive with your weight loss program. So this is why it's a good idea to learn how to read a food label and navigate the health star rating panel. So in the nutrition panel that you're seeing here on the left, you have a few key things that you want to look at. So the first thing you want to look at is the serving size. This is here to help guide you in how much is an appropriate amount of food to eat in one sitting. By following this recommended serving size, it is one way to help overeating and maintain that portion control. The second part, moving down the nutrition panel, is our total energy, our protein, fat, sugar, and fiber and sodium. For energy, you can see how many kilojoules are in the food, which can help you if you're trying to reduce the kilojoule intake. But it's also important to not forget to look at the total fat, saturated fat, and sugars, which, as you move down the label, you can see they're highlighted here. The higher the protein and the higher the fiber content not only means it could be a healthier option, it could help keep you full for longer, which could fit better into a well-balanced diet throughout the day. If you've been told to watch your sodium levels, you may already know about selecting foods lower in sodium. The guideline actually suggests opting for foods lower than 400 milligrams per 100 grams. Not only can high amounts of sodium affect your blood pressure, but if you're trying to really work on your bone health and watch your risk of osteoporosis, excess sodium in the diet can actually lead to calcium loss through your urine. So it can actually lead to reduced calcium levels in the body. And over time, this can negatively affect your bones, increase the risk of osteoporosis and fractures. So just a little tip, if you're going into the shop and you want to really look at comparing your food items with one another, always try use the 100 gram column, just because that serving size will depend on what the manufacturer has deemed to be an appropriate serving size. So it's always a better idea to look at this 100 gram column. The health star rating that you're seeing here on the right hand side is a system we use in Australia. It's goes on the front of pack. It's a front of pack labeling scheme that we use, and it's designed to provide us with an easy way to compare the nutritional profile of packaged foods on first glance. So this here is where a rating has been assigned from 0.5 to 5 stars to indicate the overall healthiness of a food product based on its nutritional composition. So the higher the health star rating, the more nutritious the food could be. But just be aware that this here is to compare foods of a similar nature together. So you would use it to compare breads against breads. You wouldn't actually use this to compare bread against a milk product. So it's there to compare those very similar food items against one another. I'm sure by now we've all heard about the Mediterranean diet, but there has been a lot of research and talk about its benefits. It's different to our Australian diet in that it really encourages higher intake of a healthy fat from seafood, nuts, seeds, and extra virgin olive oil. It does liberalize plant-based foods, and not only is it super rich in nutrients, but it is an absolutely delicious dietary pattern to implement, and it's quite simple to implement due to the simplicity of ingredients. It has been inspired by the traditional eating habits of people in the countries bordering the Mediterranean Sea, such as Greece, Italy, and Spain. But the Mediterranean diet has been widely researched due to its strong links with chronic disease prevention. So it's said to be protected against things like cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, stroke, and some cancers. Because a major precursor in a lot of chronic diseases is inflammation, this diet is said to be very beneficial in that it contains many anti-inflammatory foods like fruit, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, and olive oil. It also includes a moderate consumption of fish and poultry, and really emphasizes on the message of limiting the intake of red meats and processed foods, which are more inflammatory. So this combination of foods are said to provide a high intake of monounsaturated fat, fiber, antioxidants, and proteins, and then a number of other beneficial compounds that can help with lowering bad cholesterol levels, reducing inflammation, improving blood vessel function, and promote overall cardiovascular, immune, and musculoskeletal health. It's not a strict calorie restricted diet, but it's still been associated with healthy weight management because of its focus on nutrient-dense food, portion control, and moderation, which can help maintain a healthy body weight. So diets that are higher in fiber, lean proteins, and healthy fats not only help with controlling energy intake, but it can help keep you full for longer throughout the day, increase meal satisfaction, help with reducing risk of overeating or continuously snacking after your lunch or dinner late at night. Implementing this type of diet in your household, it doesn't need to be tricky, but there are a few tips to help get you started. And it really starts with extra virgin olive oil. So despite being a type of fat, when it comes to choosing oils for cooking or consumption, it's generally recommended to prioritize the oils that are higher in those unsaturated fats, due to the high concentration of monounsaturated fats, which replace all the saturated and trans fats in the oil. Extra virgin olive oil is one of those oils that contain an abundant amount of polyphenols, vitamin E, squalene, all things that are very effective at targeting inflammation in your body and may even help with improving the joint. It also really aims to encourage a variety of colorful fruits and vegetables in your meals. They should really form a significant portion of your plate. You can have them as snacks, salads, side dishes, or incorporate them into main courses. Herbs and spices are also unique to the Mediterranean diet in that it can really help enhance the flavor of your meals instead of relying on copious amounts of salt in marinades or dressings. So you are definitely encouraged to experiment with the basil, the rosemary, garlic, oregano, all the spices that can make your dish not only more tasty, but more nutritious as well. So with fish and lean proteins, salmon, sardines, tuna, they're encouraged to be consumed at least twice a week. Not only are they high in protein, but they're actually high in omega-3s and calcium, which are excellent for inflammation and also bone health. Your poultry, eggs, and legumes toast food are also good sources of protein sources. Legumes like lentils, chickpeas, beans, these are all an important part of the Mediterranean diet, and they're encouraged to be consumed with soup, stews, salads, or even as a main dish. Now, for dairy products, we just saw a question come in about that. You can choose, we'll start with choosing low fat or fat free dairy products like yogurt, cheese, and milk in moderation. Alternatively, if you're someone who doesn't agree with the lactose or dairy, you can consider incorporating those fortified plant-based milks or the fermented dairy products. So you might have heard of kefir yogurt, kefir milk. That you even have some types of cheeses as well. Basically, your fermented dairy products are very, very rich in probiotics, which are microorganisms that can provide a number of health benefits within the gut. So they can help promote a healthy balance of the gut bacteria, which are not just essential for digestion, nutrient absorption, but overall gut health. And so I won't go into too much of that today, given that there is a separate webinar coming up that will be talking all about the benefits of gut health in arthritis. Nuts, seeds, these are strongly encouraged in the Mediterranean diet. They can be a great source of protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Using the Mediterranean diet, they're consumed in snacks or they're sprinkled into meals or breakfasts like salads, yogurt, or oatmeal, and they can contribute to a well-rounded diet. And what's important to know about the Mediterranean diet, it's not only about food, it's about the lifestyle. So moderate wine consumption is actually considered a part of the Mediterranean diet, but moderate typically means up to 1 glass per day for women and up to 2 glasses per day for men. And it's not an essential component of the diet, but it is one of those things that are consumed with a lunch or a dinner, due to that social value that is talked a lot about when it comes to a Mediterranean lifestyle. Red wine is often highlighted in the Mediterranean diet due to its high content of nutritional compounds such as resveratrol and antioxidants. So these compounds have been associated with potential cardiovascular benefits. And alcohol, it is still pro-inflammatory, and so avoiding it is going to be better than drinking it. But these type of beneficial compounds can also come about from grapes or grapefruit. So they can still be included in the diet, doesn't have to be in the form of alcohol. But if you're someone who loves drinking a bottle of wine with a dinner but on the weekend, a good starting point is actually just reducing that. So building motivation and setting goals are going to be very important for achieving weight loss and successful outcomes. If you're someone who has been wanting to lose weight for a while, or if you've struggled in the past and you've tried to follow your diet, this is going to be super relevant to you because you do have what it takes, but your commitment is key. So before jumping straight into a weight loss program, it's really important that you understand your own underlying motivations and reasons for pursuing it. Is it because your joint pain has gotten worse? Is it because you notice your mobility reducing? Or maybe you have a holiday coming up and you want to make sure that you're going to be as active as you can. You may have many reasons for wanting to lose weight, but you have to reflect on why the goal is important to you, what benefits or positive changes can it bring, and how does it align with your values. So that reflection is a really important, crucial part of starting any weight loss program. So you can always go back and reflect on why you are committing to this. The next part is setting SMART goals. And if you already work with a dietitian or a trained exercise professional, maybe you've done this already. But for those who don't know what a SMART goal is, it's an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, or attainable, realistic, and timely. When you're setting goals, following this framework really helps you clearly define what your goals are helps you put in place a measurable criteria to track your progress. It helps remind you to make them realistic and attainable within your capabilities and aligned with your overall aspirations, values, and priorities. So they should be a meaningful, they should really be meaningful to you and have a very positive impact on your life. We have an example here of what a SMART goal actually looks like. And so by breaking down those goals and thinking about strategies to go with them, it can help make this process a lot easier. It's not about just jumping into a diet and cutting out all the foods you love or restricting them, but putting in place some simple strategies and having some goals to really commit to. It makes the process a lot easier. So, for example, if you know that a particular behaviour you need to work on is eating more fruit, that would be a perfect goal to stick to. If you're going to make it SMART, you can think about a way to make sure you're going to have more fruit every single day. So if you want to have one serving of fruit at lunch, set a measurable criteria with that. Keep yourself committed to doing that 5 times a week. And then at the end of the week, reflect on if you're able to do that every day. That will make a big difference to your outcome in about 5 weeks or 10 weeks time. It's good to always track your progress as well, whether you want to record it on a piece of paper in a diet diary, or if you want to take pictures of your meals, or if you want to take pictures of yourself and track your weight loss in that way. It's important to just always make sure you're going back and you're reflecting on what behavior you have been working on and how far you've come. And don't forget to set yourself a reward and have a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. So if you had your eye on a picture for so long, or you want to go to a show in the city, why don't you set that as a reward so it is a positive incentive for you and it keeps you motivated. So here's some tips for goal setting. You can start with setting 1 to 3 goals at a time by focusing on a limited number of goals. It allows you to direct your energy and attention more effectively. It's good to think it's easy to think really far ahead and think of where you want to be at in 6 months' time, but it's always good to focus on the now because it's going to help you stay accountable to yourself. Too many goals at once can spread you too thin, make it really hard to achieve them. Focusing, finding ways to hold yourself accountable is going to be important as well. So it could be that you want to share your goals with your neighbour or your friend or a family member, or even just joining a support group. So accountability is really going to help increase your commitment and help you stay on track. You can anticipate potential obstacles or challenges that may hinder your progress towards your goals. So if you have a party coming up, whether it's a birthday, a work function, social event, maybe you are going on a holiday. Think about these challenges because it doesn't mean you have to, you are going to fail. That's not the case. You can think of strategies or contingency plans to overcome these obstacles. And so it can really help build your resilience in the face of these challenges and setbacks. And so, again, making sure that you're celebrating your successes, no matter how small they are. So celebrating these milestones and rewarding yourself, it's really going to boost your motivation, reinforce positive behaviour, and remind you of the progress you've made. So you've done the work and you deserve to be celebrated for it. And so by incorporating some of these tips, it can really enhance that goal setting process and help increase your chances of achieving your goals. If you're someone who finds the scales a bit daunting and you've been told to watch your weight and you've been tracking it on the bathroom scales or in a doctor's clinic. It's not the only way to track progress. You can also monitor your progress through other ways, like tracking your fitness levels, looking at your waist to hip ratio, looking at how many medications you are now able to reduce, or looking at clothing sizes. The point is that if you don't enjoy getting on the scales and tracking your progress in that way, and it demotivates you, find other ways to remind yourself and track your progression of how far you've come. I think goal achievement, exercise levels, your dietary improvements, your blood pressure has come down. They're all still very relevant ways to monitor your progress and ensure that you have come a long way from where you started. So these are just some great resources and organisations you can have a look at and you can get involved with. We have the New South Wales Get Healthy program, which have you can sign up for, and it offers free coaching and nutrition advice to individuals. You have the Equal Health website, which have a lot of useful resources for individuals like yourself. And then also Nutrition Australia, for someone who needs that cooking inspiration, you need recipes or snack ideas. This is a great website to actually have a look at because they've got a lot of fact sheets, links, recipes, pictures, a lot of fun things to actually download and keep on you. Now, does anyone have any questions for me? I'll open the floor to you guys, and if you don't feel as comfortable with the recording on, I'll switch it off in about 5 minutes and you can stick around and speak with me almost in an offline way. Have any burning questions that popped up? Okay, so I had one. Can we get the chart to healthy eating guide somewhere? Yep. That food plate I showed you earlier on in the presentation, that can be accessed in the Equal Health website. And it's a great idea to print it out, put it on your fridge or keep it on your computer, somewhere where you always where you're always going to see it. Julie, you've raised your hand.
With all those notes, can we go back and go over them at all?
I can get them uploaded to our website for you so you can go through and have a read.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
Just find it difficult to keep up with it.
Yeah, it can be a bit tricky because there's a lot of information to digest, I guess.
So that'd be great if you can do that. Thank you very much for the talk.
That's not a problem at all. Thanks for coming, Julie. I'll switch off the...
Excuse me, this is Tammy.